What up, guys? I'm former UFC fighter and current owner of Easton Training Center, Eliot Marshall.
I'm Scott Nickel, teaching pastor at Flatirons Community Church.
Scott, am I fucking going to hell?
Yes.
Welcome to the Saint
And the Sinner. Alright everybody, welcome to episode 7. In case you're wondering why we're wearing the same thing this week, it's because we're recording 2 episodes in the same week because I'm going to be out of town. And so Eliot just finished his birthday donut from last week. Yeah, so we've this is time travel that just happened right now. I was actually reading about time travel the other day.
Were
I
you?
don't understand it. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I understand time travel.
That's a very ballsy statement. All right.
Time travel makes total sense. What I don't understand is that there's this idea that only the here and now is what's true.
Right.
Right? And that memories and the future are not. You're only the present is what's happening. Mm-hmm. There's no past. There's no nothing. Mm-hmm. There's this model that if you read, I can't even do it justice.
You said you understood it.
No, I understand time travel.
Oh.
I understand how you can go back in time and we haven't been able to achieve it yet.
Yeah.
You know? But this other thing I don't get.
If you could go back in time, which time period would you go to and where?
I got a good one here.
You gotta be careful. Yeah. You gotta be careful because you're biracial. So you could get yourself.
I could get myself in a lot of trouble.
You gotta be careful.
I would want to go talk to Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are in the same boat right there. Right. I would want to go see it. I would want to go see everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would want to go see every single thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Right. This was a good one for me. So on the time travel thing, going back in time. So and it wasn't really going back in time so much. Somebody came into my office and we were just talking, you know. And he goes, and he had a point to the story. And he goes, if you could go do one thing or do things over again, what's the one thing that you would do over again? What would you do better at? You know. And almost every male says I would bang more chicks, man. Right? Almost every single one goes, I would bang more girls, right?
Right.
And you're like, and because you know, we all can think of the girls that we were close with, and then blew it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, man, how did I blow that? That was like on a platter.
Right.
You know?
Youth is wasted on the young.
You know?
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, think about this. You want to bang more chicks, right? And you're like, yes, right? From a young age, right? Because, like, you know, if you could have figured it out how to be smooth at 14, you would for sure do it. And
you thought you were smooth.
You
at
thought
14.
you were smooth, but
that
you
was
weren't.
the problem.
Yeah, but you weren't at all, right?
That got in the way.
Yeah. So anyway, right? So he's like, okay, now let's pretend you have this history of being really smooth, right? And you meet your wife, you know, and this is him talking, not me.
Right. Good, important to clarify this.
You know?
Okay.
And he's like, and you're probably still gonna bang your wife the first time, you know? He's like, and you could probably tell yourself, yeah, all right, so I'd have a different wife. You know what I mean? Like, because you might leave her now because you're good at banging chicks, right? Because you might just bang her and then be gone. You know, or date her for a little bit and be like, I'm bored of this girl. I'm gonna go bang another girl. You know, when you're in the dating stage, right? He's like, but you have kids. And I was like, I do.
You're like, you're right.
But you can process having sex with somebody else, right? That's something very easily to do. Most of us have had sex with more than one person. If you're sane anyway, you have. Sorry, people.
Last week the KKK.
This week, yeah.
All right. Well done.
So you can imagine that, right? It's not like this big misconception. So you can be like, all right, maybe my wife would have just been. I love my wife, you know, but maybe she would have just, you know. I'm sure there's many people that I could love. There's 6 million people, 6 billion people in the world. I don't believe she's the only person.
One and only,
You're the one and only.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm sure I could find somebody else to be crazy with.
Right.
So we had little jokes.
Back to the crazy.
So he's like, but now, if you just only banged your wife and you didn't marry your wife, you wouldn't have these same kids.
Right.
And I was like, and then instantly, I was just like, but I was with him the whole train of thought.
I was like,
oh, you're right. I wouldn't do anything different.
Right.
Right. You wouldn't do anything different because you can't imagine different kids.
Right.
Right. You only, as messed up as yours might be, right? You're like, I only want them.
Right.
Right. You don't want another one. You can't even say, oh, you'd still have kids, but they'd be different.
In fact, there's a lot out there. You're like, I definitely would not want to have
for sure.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I thought it was really interesting as far as like the whole time travel thing and going back. You're like,
would you do it differently?
Would you do it differently type thing? And that immediately went off my bucket list of banging more chicks. I was like, we're not like, I should say, bucket list is a way wrong word.
Because that's future tense.
This is what you're gonna do.
Oh, Renee. Renee, I didn't even lead him into that one. I'm sorry.
Man, I just walked right into that one.
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, no more fight trips for you, asshole.
Right. Where's your bucket list? I need to see it.
So, so yeah, that one. I thought that was a really interesting argument. And this guy was divorced.
Yeah.
Right? Hates his ex-wife.
But still
says, I wouldn't do anything different. And his kids can be a little difficult. And still says he wouldn't do anything different because those are his kids, man. And, for all you people that wonder about the power of children, there it is.
Oh, yeah. I think there's definitely like this, you arrive in these points in your life where like, there's been all these bumps along the road, there's things I would have done differently, I made a lot of mistakes, that kind of thing. But if all that contributed to bring me right here to where I am, and I'm not necessarily into that if you took out one small part, maybe that would have changed the trajectory of everything. But if all that led me to here, I would still go through it, and still do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have pretty good
good
lives.
Yeah. I can't complain about my life. It's a
little different when you're, sitting in Haiti, that kind of thing. So, but it's easy for us to say, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. All right, let's talk about a couple of questions that's come up a little bit on the Facebook and stuff like that. Is about jiu-jitsu. And what jiu-jitsu has done for both of us. And for me, martial arts has influenced my life greatly. I started when I was 6 years old.
Karate, right?
Karate, and I've done it ever since then.
A year ago, I started jiu-jitsu. It was the only time I've ever done martial arts in my life. So,
jiu-jitsu is my religion.
Yeah, right.
For me, I found every answer almost that I ever needed. I found on the mat. What's so funny?
Hank's texting me.
Oh.
Hank's texting me over here.
Wow, Hank.
I don't know. He's telling me we are a country song. Now you are a country song. You have to explain yourself now.
Every bad decision I made led me to right where I am. We'll play.
What is the Garth Brooks song, man?
I'll dub that in next week.
One of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. Yeah, that was the one. That was the one.
I couldn't help it.
So, for me, that's where I found myself.
Yeah.
It was on the jiu-jitsu, and that was on when we moved the school from the old location to here. It was it wasn't like it was exciting. It was a little teary for me because literally I became an adult over there. I became a man.
That's the one you walked into when you were in college.
That's the one I walked into. That's the one I walked into. And here I'm going to tell this story, how this all happened, and you guys are going to be like, how does Eliot not believe in Jesus and that He's taking care of him? I met them all in a mall when I was a freshman.
Met them all in a mall.
Met them all in a mall. When I was a freshman in college, I just moved here, and he was teaching out of a karate school. And I trained with him for a little bit. I got a little injury, a couple months I trained with him. I got injured a little bit, and then I couldn't afford it anymore.
Right.
I was broke, and he was teaching out of a karate school. So I met some kid that I had wrestled around with in the rec center or the dorms, lived in my dorms. I met him, I saw him the next year, and he's like, hey, did you hear that a mall opened up a spot? And I was like, oh, no way, really? So I literally got on my bike and rode down there. And was like, hey, man, is there any way, and he remembered me, He was like, I was like, is there any way that I could clean, or I mean, I'll clean your house, your car, whatever it is. I'm still broke, And he was like, you know what, my cleaner just quit 2 hours ago. And I was like, damn, all right, there it is.
God's sovereignty.
God's sovereignty. Yeah, well, you know what I'm going to say to that, right?
He's got you in the palm of his hand.
He's got me, but why not somebody else? So I'm not so narcissistic. He's into me. I want to know why he's not into other people.
God's really into you, man.
Yeah. So this is my argument with fighting, right?
So you came in with that background of karate.
And I had done some jiu-jitsu. So my friends that I grew up doing karate with, one of the guys was older, and we went to like a national sparring tournament, to be the best of our style, and he dodged my division. He went and did the old man's division, and I was like, you pussy. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, what, are you afraid for me to beat you? And it's not like a fight. So people are like, why would you fight your teammate? You sparred.
Right.
So it's not like you're trying to take the other guy's head off, right? You know, he's like, yeah, you think I'm scared? And I was like, yes, I think you were scared.
I would imagine that escalates though. How does that not escalate from sparring to a genuine fight if it's a competition? Because that happens even just in the gym. Like guys start, one guy throws at 70 and the next guy's got to throw at 75%.
They indoctrinate you with this bullshit. Sound familiar? Of how you're supposed to spar and how this will really work if you really needed it to. I would touch you just like this.
Yeah, it's not true.
It's this indoctrination crap. You wonder how this happens. Oh, by the way, when you asked me, so I got to touch on it for a second. I'm going to interrupt the story. When you asked me how people believe what they believe, and like the apostles saw what they saw, and I told you that was a little bit of cuckoo-ness.
Yeah,
you know, a couple weeks ago. A lot of psychopathy. Yeah, my sister called me the other day. She talked to some girl that went on a date with Jesus the other night. Okay,
really?
So there it is, man.
Was he a gentleman?
No, it was a girl.
Was Jesus a gentleman?
I didn't get. I had to go. I couldn't get into it with her that much.
Did he buy dinner? Did he open the doors?
I'm not sure. Right?
I guess I got questions.
Yeah, me too, man.
Okay.
So, but when you talk about the psychopathy of belief, there it is. She believed it. So anyway, back to jiu-jitsu.
Now, if you go get hundreds of other people who all collectively went on a date with Jesus at the same time.
Oh, would you like me to? Would you like me to? I will gladly do it. How long do you think that would take me?
A little while.
I guarantee you, if I tried this, if I tried this, this would get done in a week. I guarantee you, I could do it.
Yeah, but one would be like you wore a red shirt. Yeah. The other would be like, no, it was a blue sash.
Yeah, but that's fine. So anyway, where were we?
So we're sparring.
Oh, sparring. So yeah, so he
dodged you.
He dodged me.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, you think I'm scared? And I was like, 100%, my man.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, come over to my house next week, next Friday. You know? And I was like, sweet, I'm going to whoop your ass.
Like in his basement or something?
His basement, his garage. You know? I was like, I'm going to whoop your ass, old man. Right? I went over there. I had no clue what jiu-jitsu was. He fucked me up.
Yeah, he's just submitting you left and right.
Submitting me left and right. I got my ass beat, probably worse than I'd ever had my ass beat.
How big were you back then?
I was 210.
210?
You know?
How big was he?
170, 180.
Yeah.
You know?
This is the thing about jiu-jitsu, you know? I mean, this goes back to Royce Gracie in the original UFC. Like, you know, I mean, he weighed, what, 165, 170? Something like that. And he gets thrown in the ring with, like, Ken Shamrock and guys like that who are these big, jacked, steroid, you know, huge dudes. You know, and he just chokes them all. You know, chokes them, arm bars them, whatever. You know? And people just didn't know what to do with that. Like, you look back at some of those original UFCs and, like, people in the crowd, even the commentators, didn't know what Gracie was doing. Like, they couldn't figure out why people were tapping out.
Yeah.
Because they'd never seen this stuff before.
It was awesome.
You know? It was mind-blowing.
It was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing. And it was crazy. It was the crazy. Helio Gracie and what the Gracies did was maybe it is by far the biggest martial arts accomplishment in history.
Yeah.
They changed the world.
Yeah.
You know? They changed the world. And for me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lives on some very foundational principles, and really just one kind of. And it is that you have to learn how to be the nail before you get to be the hammer. Right? Yeah. And you'll have your time being the hammer.
That's Mr. Miyagi worthy there, man.
You know? It's not mine. It's Henzo Gracie's.
Yeah.
It's Henzo's.
Yeah.
You know? And there's a shirt that says Henzo knows, and Henzo knows, man.
Yeah.
Henzo knows. Henzo's the coolest Gracie of them all, in my opinion.
He's the one in New York, right?
He's the one in New York.
Yeah. He would fight anybody.
He would fight. He was willing to lose and put it to a test. Yeah. Right? In a time when he knew other people got really good at jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And he was 40.
Right.
Right? And he was an old man. And he was still like, I just want to see I just want to test myself.
The 40-year-olds in the room just got pissed at you.
Yeah, sorry. You know?
In the fighting world, he was an old man. You know, there's a video out there somewhere of this this fight that Henzo had down in Brazil. And what was there? So there's the the Gracies, and then there was this kind of
there's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and there's Luta Livre.
Luta Livre, yeah. And there was a big fight down there, and there was a
there's a stabbing.
Yeah, there's a stabbing,
and somebody stabbed Henzo through the cage.
Through the cage, you see him against the cage, and there's guys like just trying to stab him, and then they riot at the end. The lights get torn down, and there's a fire in the ring. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. And Henzo tells the story, and he laughs about it. I'm like, you're nuts.
Henzo's nuts, man. Yeah. Henzo's crazy and the coolest dude that you'll ever meet. Like that, the thing just happened with him beating up that guy in the nightclub, to the bouncer. Yeah. He most likely really deserved it.
Probably.
Most likely really, really deserved it. And the thing about the Gracies, and this is why I love them. they put it on the line all the time, especially that side of the family. They were willing to throw down, right? They were willing to get it on.
Back to the Gracie
no
challenge,
what.
right?
Yeah.
Like for those who don't know, the Gracie family invented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Basically, it was kind of this. It was brought from Japan, you know, traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and then they developed this whole new system. And the way they tested it was
they invited people.
They just said, "Come fight."
Yeah, they said, "Come on in, walk in the door." And this is how it evolved.
And they recorded some of those.
Yeah, they recorded a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the better you get at jiu-jitsu, you get to actually partake in these Gracie challenges. Like, I've done so many. And I actually just did one a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah?
It was awesome.
What do you mean? What happened?
So it happens, man. People, it doesn't happen so much anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't happen that much. So this guy comes in, I teach the CrossFit class. Right? And he does the CrossFit class. Super nice guy.
Is this in Denver or here?
In Denver. Okay. You know? Super, super nice guy. So I don't want to bash this guy.
Right.
You know? And then we walk over and the advanced class is going on. You know, because we're done our class, and Ian's teaching it. And
advanced jiu-jitsu
class, you know. And Ian's teaching it, and he's going, and he's showing these moves. You know, the guys are rolling, and the guys, he and I are standing out there on the side watching everybody train. When I say rolling, I'm not talking about ecstasy. It's what we call sparring, you know, in jiu-jitsu. And the guy's like, yeah, you know, I did this stuff in the Marines, you know, where we did this combative stuff.
Yeah,
and I was
there's
like,
some grappling, some holds. And
he was like, I did really well. I never really lost. And I was like, oh, man, that's really great, you know. And I try not to challenge people.
Sure.
Like, I don't challenge people.
There's no reason to.
You know. And, you know, we're kind of going back and forth with it, and I'm kind of talking to him, and he's like, man, I wonder what would happen if I got on the mat with, like, you, because I've done really well with guys that are, like, 240, you know. He's like, I never lost, you know. I was like, oh man, that's cool. I was like, most likely I would tie you in knots, you know. And he, you know, but I said as nice as I could say it.
Yeah, here's how this will probably go.
You know, and he goes, I don't know. I think that would be cool to see.
He's just easing.
So I was like,
he's trying not to like.
So there
really
was,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was challenging,
sure.
But he wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Right, he wasn't being a tool.
You know.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and I was like, cool, man. I'm just gonna go pee and I'll be right back.
Yeah.
You know. And I've done tons of these.
Yeah, did you go gi or no gi?
No gi, of course.
Yeah, because he doesn't.
I would do whatever he wants.
Right.
You know. So we get there, right? So we sit. I sit down, and I never try to get on top of anybody when I train.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know I'm going to get there when I get there.
Thank you for that. By the way.
No worries, man.
Yeah.
So we shake hands, you know, and he looks at me and he goes, "What are the rules?" You know, and I'm like, "Man, the rules can be whatever you want the rules to be."
You tell me.
I was like, "You tell me the rules." He's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, we can do whatever you want. He's like, can I hit you? And I was like, man, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Just be aware that I'm going to do that back to you.
Right.
You know? So he has this look and he goes, let's just see who taps no strikes. And I was like, cool. Right? Because this is like the challenge people's thing. They try to get you to this point where you won't accept some point of their game, so that they can keep it in their head and go, well, we could have done this. Right?
So that later they go, if you let me eye gouge.
When you sit there nice and calmly and say, we can play whatever game you want. And this is my problem with modern jiu-jitsu a little bit. When people talk about some problems with jiu-jitsu, is people have gotten away from this.
Yeah.
Right? As a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right, or even in my belief, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, you need to be able to handle almost anybody that walks through the door.
Right.
And says, hey, I want to see what this is like. So anyway, we all know what happened with my role with this guy, right? Yeah. And he was amazed afterwards. He was like, man.
Yeah.
Right? And my thing when I roll with people is I don't do a set of multiple things to them. Right?
Keep doing one thing.
I just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, to frustrate them.
Right? I just do the same exact thing, and all I do is I do one move.
Yeah.
So I can show them that I can just do this as much as I want, right? Yeah. And there's this whole other scope of things, you know? And people like to associate the UFC with an actual fight or combat, and it's not even close. Because he asked me afterwards, he goes, if we could have punched, what would you have done differently? And I said, nothing.
Probably nothing. Yeah, why would I want to do that?
I was like, not a thing. Yeah. He's like, why? I was like, maybe when I got to the mount, I would punch you.
Yeah, just
but
a shorter
until that point, I don't need to.
All right.
You know,
right.
But in the UFC, there's rules, and you gotta hit the ribs a little bit. You gotta hit the ribs a little bit to score some points with the judges.
Soften
you know,
somebody up. Yeah.
So anyway,
the thing about for me with jiu-jitsu, when I got into it was last summer. I just kind of wandered into this school across the street from the church, and recognized one of the guys in there. And I got my kids into it first because I knew that Eli, he'd actually done one session of jiu-jitsu over at Zagano several years ago, you know, and but then he wrestled for a couple of years, and he's just wired that way.
Sure.
He just likes that kind of physical challenge, you know.
Right, right.
So I was like, man, this place is close, and so they're like, yeah, come try the kids class. And so he did it for a little while, and then one day when he was in there, my in-laws were dropping him off, and my daughter Landry, who's 10, was with them, and somebody invited her to try it, and she was like, yeah, I'll try it. And so she got in there, and she's full on, like, really good. Nice. You know, because the thing that people don't, well, maybe people do realize is, like, boys, you have to really break an ego down, and it doesn't change with men either.
We're taught as males,
right,
to be strong.
You better win. You know, win. And the girls listen a lot better. You know, they get the technique faster. They're usually a little coordinated sooner. You know, so it just works. And so she's really good.
She whoops Eli's ass, doesn't she?
She does, and he doesn't. He does not like to roll with her. He doesn't like to roll with her at all. Nobody actually likes to roll with Landry. What they do is anytime a new boy comes in, they put him with Landry to kind of break him down a little bit, and she loves that.
Sure.
So they started, and then I got into it, you know, and it's a very uncomfortable thing at first, for a lot of reasons. One is because you do have this huge ego thing going on, and I don't think anybody.
And you're not an egotistical guy.
I think I am, but I'm not. But
you're not. You're not like, I'm the man, bro.
Yeah, that's
I'm the man. I'm the man.
Yeah, you know. So I come in, and you know, I've been into fighting, and I've known a lot of you guys for a long time, and so I mean, I have this peripheral knowledge of it and whatever, but it's just all kind of you know, from watching, you know, and stuff. And so I get in there, and you know, I go to a few classes and things like that, and it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, man. And I didn't realize how ADD I was. Like, people, you know, you're sitting there, and the professor or the coach is, you know, going over what you're going to go over, giving you the drill for the day, and then he's like, all right, you know, go do it. And you're like, I wasn't paying attention to any of that. I don't even know what we're doing right now, you know? And it's just overwhelming at first. And then the first time you roll with somebody, the first time you grapple with somebody, for me, I think that having come from CrossFit, it actually hurt me more than it helped me.
The CrossFit.
At first.
Of course, 100%.
At first. Because I have some cardiovascular endurance, and I have some strength.
And you're relatively strong for your size.
Relatively strong for my size, and so that's all I have at my disposal. So if I could go for a while and exhaust myself and just continue to get tied in knots. Whereas I think somebody who is maybe a little less fit or whatever, and maybe they would have been broken a little faster, or maybe they would have picked up on things a little quicker. But you tend to rely on the thing that you have. And so for me, it was all strength.
At what point in your jiu-jitsu life were you allowed to roll?
Well, technically 2 stripes was when we were allowed to like roll with each other, but we were allowed to roll with like upper belts. I was allowed to roll with some black belts and stuff like that before I got my 2 stripes. But once you get 2 stripes on your white belt, you're free to roll.
It's a good principle that your school took from mine.
Well, I'm sure that's all over the place. Ryan's gonna be on the Facebook page now.
Eliot.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu's been awesome, man, and the long-term bit of that was getting me to figure out, like, not to just rely on strength, but there's this thing, like, and I tell the story of the first time I rolled with Cody, because that was really early on in jiu-jitsu for me. Like, I think I'd only been doing it for maybe a month or something like that, and Cody Donovan, who's a 205 fighter in the UFC, black belt in jiu-jitsu, he had just gotten his black belt, I think, or maybe was about to get it when I rolled with him for the first time. And we rolled in the game.
Did he have a fight in the UFC yet?
Yes.
Then he had his black belt.
In fact, he was just coming back from his second one, so he had it. So we get on the mat, and he does something to me that nobody had ever done to me before, which is this horrible thing called knee on belly. And he just broke my spirit, man. I just thought I was going to die. You know, and everybody at church and everybody's heard me tell the story of how he whispers in my ear. Have I told you this? Yeah, he whispers in my ear. You know, sometimes you can break a man without even attacking him. Like, oh, screw you, Cody. I hate you right now. You know, but there's really valuable lessons to be learned, and a lot of it is in losing. You know, you got to lose.
Being broken.
Yeah.
I couldn't I can remember I couldn't handle losing at all.
Yeah.
You know, I was really bad at it. I would, you know, some of the stereotypical jiu-jitsu things we've all done. Make excuses of why you tapped.
Right.
Like all these things, right? And what it taught me is that when I tap, I tap.
Yep.
And that's fine. And there's not an excuse need to be made, right? I just need to learn from it. I just need to learn from it. And one of the things, and Ricardo Almeida, a really high-level black belt, fought in UFC as well. Almost all my tenants I get from somebody from Henzo's.
Sure.
He said, look, because a lot of instructors do this, the day I stop rolling with my students because I'm afraid to tap is going to be the day that I stop doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? And I tell this story about Amal, right? Because Amal, for me, he's almost like my, he's like a father figure because I became a man under him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And my dad, I'm not putting down my dad.
Sure.
I have the best dad in the world,
Sure.
right? Like, but there's gonna even for my son, there's gonna come a point in a time, my sons, there's gonna come a point in a time where somebody else is gonna have to help them along their manhood, along them learning how to be a man, right? Because I can only give them so much, right? So for me, that was Amal. And I can just remember watching him roll with people and rolling with me. And I probably tapped them all out for the first time when I was like a blue belt. Right? And it just didn't matter.
Right.
And I thought it was like the greatest thing in the world. Like I was going to get some gift now.
Yeah.
And he just sat down, shook hands again, went again, and I probably tapped him out again.
Yeah.
I probably tapped the first time I tapped him out, I probably tapped him out 3 or 4 times that day.
Yeah.
And the reason being was because he was trying to figure out something new. It wasn't that I was anywhere near his level.
Right.
Right? Well, not even close.
Right.
And this is what jiu-jitsu can really teach you. It can teach you to vary yourself and learn all this new stuff, right? Because then a month later, the same thing that he was trying to do to me, the day I tapped him out, he he whooped my ass.
Yeah. And
he's still doing this.
Yeah.
He's still doing this, right?
He's still trying to learn.
He's still trying to learn and grow.
Yeah,
right?
It goes back to losing, man.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we're screwing our kids with is like, we've got to
it kills me.
We've got to allow people to lose.
Don't keep counting the soccer game.
Yeah.
Because it's the best thing in the world for them to do is lose.
Right. Yeah. Because it's a bait and switch. If they never learn to lose, and then all of a sudden we unleash. And my mom will tell you this because she teaches at a grad school.
Right.
Like she gets these grad level students who have never ever really lost in life.
Sure.
They're so entitled. She has parents of kids. No, they're not kids. They should be grown-ups. Call her and complain about their kid's grade during grad school. It's like, how could you give my kid a D or a C or whatever? And it's, you gotta be kidding me, because this kid's been told their whole life they're exceptional. And not everybody's exceptional.
Yeah, I've got a good story with this. I'm going to add on to it when we're done with jiu-jitsu.
Well, I think jiu-jitsu is great in teaching you how it breaks you down in a really healthy way in an environment where, this is what people don't understand. Like, I think that martial artists, the ones that I've encountered, are some of the most calm, cool, collected. Like, there's nothing to prove. Ego is way over here.
Do you know what it would take for me to get into a fight?
Somebody have to mess with your kids.
I would They wouldn't even just have to mess with them. They would have to actually be doing something. I would have to defend them.
Yeah.
Right? I would have to be like, oh man, I need to turn this on right now.
Right.
Right. Because I have no wonder of what I can and can't do.
Right.
I know exactly what I can do.
Right.
And does that mean that I can go beat up the same people that I used to be able to beat up? No, not at all. I'm fat and out of shape.
You're 34
I'm
now.
34 now.
Yeah.
For a week.
Yeah.
So there's 2 things that people mess up, and it forces the losing thing, right? We learn by losing. And I really noticed this as having children. But I watch them just make all these mistakes and then not make them again. Like try to walk. How do you walk? You don't just stand up and walk one day.
You fall down a lot.
You mess it up all the time, right? You touch a hot stove. You do all kinds of stuff, and this teaches us. And for some reason, we stop letting this occur.
Yeah.
And even more so, we stop letting this occur, right? And it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's awful. And you know what I think a lot of it is? Parents' ego. Parents' ego, because they can't handle watching their kid lose.
Fail.
Because we project so much of ourselves into their success.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden we project ourselves into their failure. It's like, that's your kid out there, but man, when he makes the good catch, it goes beyond being proud of him or happy or man.
It gives you something inside of you, and you're like, what do you, man?
And then the opposite is true. And it is hard. And I'll say the first time that to watch Eli go on a wrestling mat is really hard. Because that's, bro, I can't
I can't help you.
I can't help you.
But this is okay.
It's really good for him.
It's great for
really
him.
Good.
And I'm sure he's gonna get really mad and act like an asshole and do all these things because it makes it. It begs it, and it's good for you. It's good for you to learn this at a really young age.
Yeah.
The more you can lose, the better.
And you have to throw the temper tantrum when you're 4 in wrestling, like he did when he lost for the first time, than to be 24 and throw a temper tantrum at your office because your boss does something you don't like, and you get fired.
I ask people whenever I interview people for a job.
Yeah.
I say, we go through it. We do all the basic stuff, and then I try to find out about them as a person a little bit. I know what their psychology is. I try not to hire religious Republicans.
You're so discriminatory, man. You're the next Hobby Lobby. It's going to be the opposite side of it. Gosh.
So I ask them. I say, "Is life more hard work or is life more luck?" And they, I never got. Actually, one person, Park,
said luck.
Park gave me the right answer.
Said luck.
What's that?
He said luck.
He said luck.
Yeah.
And it's luck.
Yeah.
And the quote from Malcolm Gladwell is, "You get lucky enough to work really, really, really hard."
Yeah, and I think it's both. Because that's what he does so well in that book. I think is he takes people to go equal work ethic, or but there's this one moment, which almost goes back to his tipping point. But there's this one moment or a series of moments that shift things for this person who's working just as hard as this person, and this person takes off and this person doesn't. And that idea of you're the self-made person or whatever, that's not true. It's a misnomer.
Bullshit. It's
somebody helps you along the way.
Even if you don't even know them.
Right. You may not know.
Even when people are like, "Man, I started this business by myself." Right?
Yeah.
I did all this myself. Oh, really? You're an e-commerce business, homie. How you didn't make the internet?
Yeah, right. Al Gore did. Yeah,
Damn Democrat. Damn Democrat.
You have him to thank. Yeah. So learning to lose in life is so important.
So important.
And jiu-jitsu, even here I am 34 years old, and that's helped me a lot in a lot of things. It's even helped me one of the things in CrossFit that people get into is, you see this here's the prescribed workout, here's the prescribed weight, here's the prescribed volume. And for guys especially, we look at that and go, that's what I have to do.
It's hard not to do 135 when it says 135 and you can do it.
Yeah, because you're going, okay, if you're basically what you translate that as the men will do. 135.
135.
And so it's I guess.
And the women are totally cool with not doing prescribed.
Totally.
My wife is like, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to ever leave level 1. Because I don't care because I don't want to have to do prescribed. Right. And I was like, baby, when you go to regular, when you move out of elements to go to regular CrossFit classes, you don't have to do prescribed then either. I don't do prescribed all the time. Right. And she was like, really? Yeah. And she's like, because I don't want to do prescribed. And it was really interesting.
Yeah, and jiu-jitsu's helped me with this a lot because I got a lot of injuries in CrossFit from that mentality. Sure. Not CrossFit's fault, your fault. Because I wouldn't let my ego go. And now with learning to tap and tap often and tap early and tap a lot, this is the other thing in jiu-jitsu. You find the really stubborn person really fast because when you're just rolling after class or something like that, you're doing that to learn, and you'll see guys who are fighting an arm bar, and get their arm hurt, even if their partner's trying to not hurt them, but they're going to continue to fight when it's that you lost way before you got arm bar. Tap, man. Tap. Just tap.
And there's times to not. Don't get me wrong. There's for sure times when I learn how to get out of an armbar.
You need to learn how to get out of it, but but don't.
But when you're dead to rights, on your way to learning to get out of it, is a lot of tapping. Yes. It's a lot of tapping, learning going on, right? And it's a ton of it. And you're going to tap and tap and tap. I'm a black belt. Yeah. I've been a black belt since 2006, right? And I'm a rather decent black belt. I'm not just some old fart that got his black belt, right? I've tapped a ton of people, and I don't tap very often now, right? I still probably tapped more times than I've tapped people.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine.
You tap so much.
Yeah.
You tap so much. And the coolest thing also about jiu-jitsu is there's always this other level, right? I can remember the first time I rolled with Haja Gracie, right? Who, in my opinion, we're going to find out because he's doing the Worlds again next year. He's doing the Worlds. So we're going to find out if he's still, how he does with Buchecha,
Yeah.
And Rodolfo. I remember, and this is when he was the top. I rolled with him, and nobody was even close. The first time we rolled, I tapped twice in 10 minutes. Yeah. Right? And I was like, oh man, hell yeah, Eliot, good job. And then everybody trained, for another 30 minutes. And then he and I came back to be partners again. I tapped, and I was a brown belt. I just won the Pan Ams, you know, so I was
feeling pretty good.
I was probably, you know, top 1 or 2 brown belts in the country, you know, which basically means you're a black belt wearing a brown belt,
right?
You know, I tapped 14 times in 10 minutes.
That's a pretty good pace right there,
right?
Yeah.
I tapped 14 times in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't understand, I can't do that to very many people. I probably can't do that to you.
Probably, but
maybe I could. Maybe, but it'd be a stretch. And you're a white belt, and I'm a black belt right now.
You know, and that was a black belt.
And that was a black belt and a brown belt, and a good brown belt. You know,
right?
So then I went off and sat on the side, and this guy sitting right next to this other black belt, who's my buddy, goes, "Don't worry, man, you did that to me yesterday."
Yeah. That's how it is. And that's the other thing, to allow losing to teach you and to be what it is, puts higher value on winning too, and real value on winning versus this false value of winning, which is back to when everybody gets a trophy, there's no value to that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, when you get to stay on first base, when you get thrown out,
because you want to make your kid feel good. People want to make their kids feel good as a 4-year-old, and you're not. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
That's not how we get good people. We get good people by understanding who you are and exactly what you can do.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And when Hodger beat my ass, I was better the next day.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I need to go see something else.
What if Hodger would have let you tap him a whole bunch of times and give you this false sense of how good you are, you know, and then you show up to Pan Ams again, you know, it doesn't help you get better.
And that's not saying that I haven't let people tap me.
Sure.
You've tapped me.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. But we're working through something. And I want you to be able to see how you do it correctly.
Right.
So there's, you know, everyone tries to work on these extremes, you know what I mean? And it's not, you know? But man, yeah, jiu-jitsu, I believe, especially for kids, is just awesome.
Well, there's so much else that surrounds it too that's helpful. You know, I mean, when you were talking about, you know, Maul's kind of like a father figure in your life. And I'll talk just about boys here for a minute. You know, boys need their fathers, number one. So, like, if you don't have your father in your life, there's a whole lot of repercussions to that, whether you like it or not. There just is, you know. But then, even if you have your father in your life, you need these other guys in your life to kind of come alongside you and help you. You said it, to become a man, you know, to kind of usher you along. Because there is a point in a boy's life where their father's voice gets muted a little bit. And it's really helpful to have these other guys who can kind of concur with your father and help you move into manhood. And one of the things I've watched with Eli and Silas, the 5-year-old, you know, he does jiu-jitsu now too, is that having some adult males in their life that make them go, yes sir, no sir, you know, that demand respect, but also have an environment where there's fun, and as long as you stay within these parameters, we'll have all kinds of fun, you know, and just to bring that level of discipline and respect into their life is just helpful to me as a parent to have somebody else who's doing that.
100%.
It's a good thing.
100%. And a lot of people ask me what I do with jiu-jitsu with my kids, and only one of them for me is old enough right now. All we do is play. We do nothing but play. We do whatever he wants to make it fun. Because all I want is for him to keep doing jiu-jitsu. When and everyone's like, oh, is he going to be good? I have no clue. Most likely, yes. You want to know why?
He's got some advantages.
Because I'm playing with him right now. And all that matters is he has fun, so that when he's 15 or whenever, how old it comes, he goes, hey, Dad, I think I might want to get good at this. I'd be like, okay, let's get good. Now, I'm going to go show now, and it won't even be me that teaches him probably, because it will have passed me. You know? Hopefully I will have made plenty of students that are awesome at jiu-jitsu, that I'm going to be like, okay, you want to get good? Here you go. Go with those guys, and they'll make you good. I'll give you some pointers if you want to compete, because I do have that, you know. But as far as getting good, it won't be me that gets my kid good. I'll be too old. The game will have passed me too far.
He won't be that much older. You'll be 10 years older when he's 15.
Yeah, but I'm already out of the game now. You know?
You know, it's interesting. Hank and I coach, you know, baseball together fairly often. You know, we've done it for a couple of years now, and I know that there's parents and there's you know, other coaches and stuff like that think we're, you know, too hard on the kids, or, you know, we take it too seriously or whatever, and we try to make it fun and put value on winning and call it losing when it's losing. You know, and there's a lot of parents out there that are not down with that. You know, when I've coached basketball, I've had some parents come to me and go, you're you know, when you correct my kid, you make them sad. I'm like, well, do you correct them at home? You know, if he's like peeing in the yard, all the time. Well, that's a bad example because I let my kids pee in the yard all the time. Yeah, that's a bad example. But anyway, if they're doing something blatantly wrong, do you correct them? It's like you put them in this sport to be taught this sport, right? And that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just
I don't want to hear it, man.
Yeah, it's just to keep them busy.
Because it affects them, like you said, it affects them as a person with their,
Yeah.
A kid messes up multiple times on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because I mess up multiple times on a daily basis.
Right. We're people.
We're going to mess up.
Yeah. Call it what it is. Well, we've gone a little longer talking about winning and losing, and you got a meeting at 9. You want to save one of your pillars for next week, or what do you want to do? You want to talk about it for a few minutes, or?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay.
We can run a little over that.
All right. So you got these pillars, right? Okay. So the pillars are, just read them off for me again. Abortion.
Stem cell research. Which kind of get linked a little bit.
Okay.
Right? Gay marriage.
And evolution.
All right.
So you want to talk about abortion and stem cell research a little bit today.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest. One of the things that's surprising to me about you is that you are okay with abortion being allowed. Am I right?
I am.
You said you're like personally.
I am pro-choice.
You're pro-choice. All right. So tell me why.
Why?
Yeah, because you said personally for yourself, like you would never want your wife to have one unless there was like a health issue or something like that, and you had to kind of go lesser of two evils.
Goes back to your little government thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell anybody else what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wouldn't have one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have one probably, right? I don't want another kid. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? My wife and I are continuing to have sex.
Yeah,
I hope anyway.
That's good. If that ever stops, I don't want to do the podcast with you anymore because you're going to be cranky.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that the preventative measures that we are taking have the possibility of not working.
Right.
And if she gets pregnant, then we are going to have another child.
Right.
Again, I'll say it again, barring health concerns to either one.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have to weigh it out at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that abortion is more of a religious thing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And you can totally not have one and totally be against it. And this is my problem with religion. Don't tell me what to do.
Okay. So are you okay with I'll start at an extreme, okay? Mm-hmm. So don't get mad at me for starting with a very extreme case.
Like the KKK thing last week, right?
Similar, yeah. So you did. So I'll do it. So I don't know if you know who Peter Singer is. He's the eugenics guy, and so I think he's a professor at Princeton or something like that. But anyway, he's a bioethics type guy, and one of his contentions is that he's a big animal rights guy too.
Okay.
Kind of a strange dude, if you ask me. But anyway, he thinks that we should be allowed to determine whether we want to keep a child until infancy is over. So you could actually kill a child because they haven't achieved personhood yet, because they don't have a self-awareness. They don't have all this kind of thing. So 9-month-old baby, you go. I don't think this is working out. And the case that specifically he uses that for is like if, let's say the child has cerebral palsy or something like that, or some medical issue that you were unaware of before, he thinks that post-birth you should be allowed to kill a baby.
Is it viable on its own?
Yes, totally.
It's a murder.
Totally. Then it's a murder. Okay. So, most people would go, that guy's nuts,
Sure.
And so I guess if you back that up, okay, all right, so that's not okay.
We can skip all this because I know you're going to go to where does life start.
Sure, yeah. So it eventually gets to that point, So you have the late-term abortions, which most people are not cool with,
of course.
And that's a small percentage of them. But you have these cases of like Kermit Gosnell. I don't know if you saw this dude in the news last year, which, to be honest with you, it's ridiculous. This guy didn't make the mainstream news, and it makes me. I hate the news, period, because I think all of it's biased one way or the other.
Correct.
But this guy did not get reported on, and this guy's in Philly. All right, and he had this abortion clinic in the middle of the inner city, and not only was he performing all kinds of late-term abortions, but he actually pled down to not get the death penalty because they proved that he killed babies after they were born. Like, they tried to abort these babies, they were born alive, and then he killed them, and he did this in the inner city of Philly in this mostly black community. He was black, and that's a side issue. I think the abortion industry, and I'll call it an industry because it's a money maker, is racist to the core. Racist to the core. So the abortion clinic in Aurora just got an award from Planned Parenthood for going over their quota. For going over their quota. Like, here's your quota of abortions.
I can't even speak on this.
I'm just saying, it's,
right?
Yeah. So
I can't even speak on this.
All right. So I contend, and I would throw it out to our listeners, to somebody prove me wrong that abortion's not a very racist industry. I think it is, because I think black women are 4 times as likely to have an abortion as any other race, you know. And so, where do they set up shop? You know, where the highest demand is. Sure. You know, so I think that's just. I think it's gross, man. I think that's terrible that that's the way it works. So, but you can keep backing it up, right? So, okay, don't kill the 9-month-old. What are you, crazy? What are you, nuts? Okay, don't
kill the 2-month-old.
Don't the late term abortions that were done for a while were basically partial birth, abortions. You know, don't do that. That's brutal. Partially born baby, you jab something in the back of their head and drain their brains out. Really, we're doing that in our country? Yeah, we did. And so you keep backing that up, and here's where it gets really tricky for me. And I actually think that I think the tide is shifting in our country in regards to abortion. And one of the big reasons, I think, is because of science and technology. Because you've been there with me too. When you've gone in there and seen an ultrasound, have you seen like a 4D ultrasound when your wife's like 10 weeks pregnant, and you can see like all 4 chambers of the heartbeat? You know, you can see like, you know, facial features and the baby moving and limbs and, you know, all this kind of thing. And that, to see that and then go, yeah, we're not in for this. That's, boy.
You're wrong.
So you keep.
You're wrong. It's not shifting. It's never going to get. Roe v. Wade's never going to get overturned. It's not.
I think we have a chance of it.
Yeah, it's not. It's not going to happen.
But if it's not, it's only because people are being stubborn. You know, and that's my beef with it.
And it shouldn't. It shouldn't be overturned.
So tell me why.
Because this is your religious belief.
No, but it wasn't a religious belief to not kill the 9-month-old, and it wasn't a religious belief to not kill the baby that was just partially born. And I bet you wouldn't even say it's a religious belief to kill the 3rd trimester baby.
100. No, I agree with you, because it's viable on its own.
Oh, so that's the line?
That starts to be the line for me. Is where can that baby live on its own?
Okay.
Right?
So we had friends who had a baby at 20, it was either 23 or 27 weeks, and she's 13 now.
Yeah.
You know, she would have been allowed to be aborted in most states.
So there's always going to be hairy lines, right?
Yeah, but that's
because 26 or 25.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's my point.
We're gonna have. I'm not saying that I have the perfect answer.
Sure.
Right? But I'm willing to say, just like in every other case, I don't have the perfect answer. Let's try to figure this out. But totally outlawing them is not okay, because it is not you and it is not your body, and you can't be told what to do with it.
Yeah, well, the baby could easily say that's not. It's
not,
but
the baby's not alive.
But I believe the baby is.
Yeah, I know.
But that's not even purely based on the Bible. That's not even purely based on the Bible. It's based on science.
Okay, so when's the baby alive?
Beating heart, man.
But when's the baby alive?
At conception would be my belief.
So, and that comes from where?
Well, that comes from the Bible and science.
So no, not science at all.
Well,
not science at all.
But okay, so
because you're gonna believe that as soon as the sperm hits the egg, it's a baby, it's alive, right? Do you know how much shit still has to go correctly? It still has to attach to the uterine wall. It still has to do all kinds of things,
but
right?
If it doesn't, what do we call it? A miscarriage?
No. It happens all the time.
I know, and you don't even know.
You don't even know that you're not even pregnant yet.
Right.
Right. You're not even pregnant yet. You're not.
You are.
You're not. No, you're not. The pregnancy occurs when the fertilized sperm and egg attaches to the uterus in the female.
So, but if it doesn't attach to the uterus, it attaches to what?
It just gets flushed out.
Pregnancy.
No. It just a lot of them just go through.
No. But what I'm saying is, sometimes if you have like an ectopic pregnancy or things like that, it's still a pregnancy.
No, but it attaches to something, right? It's still attached. Right. Because a lot of times the sperm fertilizes the egg and it never attaches to anything and it just flushes out and you're done, right? They pee it out.
Sure.
Right? It's gone.
Right.
Where it goes through their system.
Right.
You know? Look.
But most abortions aren't even happening at that time.
No, of course not. You don't even know you're pregnant yet. Right? You don't even know you're pregnant yet.
Right.
So the whole idea of conception, there's still so much. Right? I just don't want to tell people what to do. But I don't want to tell people what to do in a sense that this woman feels like we already have a problem in this country. Right? We already have a huge problem of shitty parenting. Right? Yes?
Oh yeah,
100%, right? And we're not even talking about the people that won't let their kids loose, right? Because that's shitty parenting, but that's not really shitty parenting,
right? There's way worse.
There's way worse. What are we gonna do, right? What are we gonna do when we have more women with babies they don't want? Right.
So have we arrived? So let me ask this: have we arrived?
What do you think these women are going to do?
Have we arrived?
We're going to find them in alleys. We're going to find them in alleys with hangers up them, killing their babies. That's going to go up. All of these things are going to go up when we get rid of abortion. Right?
But to do an evil thing to prevent an evil thing is not the, that's not the way to roll.
But it's not, but you guys think it's so evil. What is so evil about, is a partial, so you keep tying it to late term and partial birth abortions. Let's get away from that.
Picking arbitrary lines is my point.
Is the baby viable on its own?
But
Can the baby live?
You just said there's always going to be a hairy line.
There's always going to be a hairy line. There's always going to be a hairy line with everything. But I have no problem, especially no problem with a 4-week, with a 6-week. That baby is nothing. With a 10-week. Not that it's nothing. That was terrible to say, right? Like, it's going to turn into something, right?
But this is the thing that, and I know I hear what you're saying there, But so Allie and I, before we ever had Landry or the other 4 kids, she had a miscarriage at. She'll correct me on this. I think it was around 10 weeks or 11 weeks or something like that. There had been a heartbeat. The heartbeat was never there. Or then stopped. So it was really interesting to me at the time. The medical. The nurse or whatever said, this is a real loss. They refer to it as a baby, all those kinds of things. But if we had decided to go have an abortion, it would have been perfectly fine.
No, I disagree with you. You would feel very similar things.
No, I know we would have felt very similar things. I'm saying the view of that from the outside would have been, this was an embryo, it was a fetus, it wasn't a baby.
Yeah, we say a lot of things to make them feel better about certain things. Oh, 100%. We're not going to argue that point.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. We're not going to argue whether what one thing that I say to somebody when they lose a fight, or another thing that I say when they win a fight. I'll say 2 totally different things because that's what they might need to hear at that point in time in their life, right? And me destroying them is not going to help. Not going to help, right? We're going to agree, right? We don't need to make that's whatever, right? I'll say some, like I've told you, I've prayed with these guys, right? And then whatever.
But it goes back to this. I feel like it's so inconsistent, to say.
Oh, it is. Oh yeah. Hold on. I'm not going to disagree with you, right? But you just can't tell women what to do. You cannot tell them what to do.
No, we tell them what to do all the time.
Yeah, we do, but not really with their own bodies and their own, when it comes to what they want to do with their body.
Well, and that's a huge. That's one of the huge dividing lines is to go. Does that baby constitute your body just because that baby is thriving, inside of you? And I don't think it does. Because that baby has a heartbeat. That baby can feel pain like 8 weeks in or something like that,
But it can't live on its own.
Can't live on its own, but the only reason it can't is because you're killing it.
No, it can't. No, it can't. Right now, it can't live on its own.
Right, but it has the potential to be able to. It has the potential
to possibly live on its own.
And to be allowed to kill when there's potential for life, to me, is dreadfully inconsistent. It goes back to if you go out in your car.
We do it all the time. What are you talking about?
But hold on, if you go out in a car and you run and you're drunk and you're driving and you run into a woman who's pregnant and you kill her, you're going to be charged with double vehicular manslaughter or murder.
Yeah, maybe for the better of
double.
Yeah, maybe. Not all the time.
A lot. But in the same state, you can abort your baby. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it's not her choice.
Doesn't make any sense.
Not her choice.
You can't call one just because you did it versus her doesn't mean that that's not a homicide.
Yeah, you can.
No, because it's a homicide. You committed homicide on her and on the baby. Okay, right?
Okay.
2 different people.
Sure.
That you're 2 different.
Oh, we do.
People.
I'm not saying we don't do it.
I know.
But I'm not saying it's not a little hypocritical.
It is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's not just us religious people that are hypocritical.
Oh yeah,
hypocrites everywhere.
There's hypocrites everywhere, for sure. For sure. My problem with the religious side of the hypocrisy is you use your religion like the Hobby Lobby thing to be hypocritical.
Well, you're on the other side.
So I'm using nothing. I don't have this book that I live up to.
Sure.
Right? Like because your book means nothing to me.
Right.
It's great. It's a great fable.
Right. You're reading it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, great, good job. I don't believe in Santa Claus either. There's plenty of books written by him. About him.
About him. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. There's plenty of Easter Bunny. We can read all these great stories.
Yeah.
But you guys have this book that you say you live up to, and you don't.
Well, and any honest Christian should say, no, I don't. I don't do a good job of that.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You
listen.
You got to the gaps.
Well, but listen.
You got to the gaps. Just like with the evolution thing, right?
Well,
when you just feel something, oh, that was God. Oh, that was God. Just because you think you don't know. Your book, in my opinion, is absolute bullshit. It's absolute bullshit because you pick what you want to, you throw out some other shit, right? And then you try to pass these laws. And this is my problem. It's a religious thing. It is a religious thing. If the religious right went away, right? If the religious people went away, we wouldn't even be talking about abortion. Yes.
Well,
yes.
It wasn't that long ago that it wasn't whether you're religious or not. Nobody thought abortion was okay, you know.
Yeah, I know. And then we came around, right? And we saw some things. And some people were like, wait a minute, this isn't cool.
And we created an industry that thrives on racism, makes all kinds of money off of damaging women, children, families, is not helping any of society's problems. You can't say that we've arrived in a better place because, you know what, we'd be in a worse place because there's millions of babies that aren't alive now that would have had shitty parents. Like, that's a huge, huge jump to make. And I won't even get into how, this contributes to how the population numbers are going down, which is the first sign of how a society collapses. I won't even get into that type of stuff.
It's not the population numbers aren't going down because of abortion.
It's a huge contributing factor.
And because you're going to have to show me some actual numbers.
And because of contraception, and because people are just having less children.
Yeah. And most of them contraception, people having less children, which is totally fine. We're allowed to do that.
No, abortions are on the decline.
Yes.
Number one, which is why I think that we're headed in a good direction. But it's still over 1 million.
Oh my lord! You just avoid the science behind everything sometimes. What do you mean that's why it's going down? Abortions are going down because we're figuring out how to educate people about how to not get pregnant.
That's probably some of it, but abortions
that's most of it.
No. I think abortions are going down because
you're going to tell me that you're going to go into because you're going to say mostly that they're in the poor black neighborhoods, right? You're going to say that you're going to go into these poor black neighborhoods, right? And they're going down because all of a sudden these poor black uneducated people all of a sudden had some feeling with God.
No. Because
because we're going in there and we're going, hey, look, there's a lot of other ways that you can avoid this abortion. And the ways that you avoid this abortion or getting pregnant, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, are this, right?
There's that.
Here's condoms.
There's that.
Right? Here's condoms. Read this book.
There's that.
Yeah.
You know what else there is?
What is that?
When that poor black woman walks into, to find out that she's pregnant, you know what happens a lot of times now? There's an ultrasound.
Yeah.
And she sees a heartbeat.
And
she goes,
and that's fine. And it's not for her. So I'll agree with you.
But this is my point. Is I think that people are seeing that now versus not that long ago we couldn't see that.
Yeah, for sure.
And
it does something to them personally. But I don't think that those people will flip-flop on telling everybody what they can and can't do. Look, it's not for me. Right? It's not for me. This is not my thing, man.
You don't say that not killing 2-year-olds is not for you.
Yeah, because they're alive. Get over the 2-year-old thing, man.
But I don't...
Yeah, because they're alive. Because Simon's going to be 1 in 2 days. Right? He's going to be 1 in 2. I have to stop saying a week. Because last week he'll be 1 in a week. Right?
Time travel.
He is viable on his own.
Yeah.
He can make it in the world. We'll go 6 more minutes.
All right.
Okay? He can make it on his own. Not really. I mean, he needs me, right? But his heart beats and all that stuff, right? And he can walk, and he doesn't need something else to keep him alive.
He does.
Parents.
He needs you to feed him,
for sure.
I mean, you can go back to Roman culture.
No, for sure. But the life is viable on its own. It can breathe outside. It doesn't need a tube connected to it to live.
Okay.
And we do all this killing all the time.
All right, so...
Hold on, let me finish. We do all this killing all the time, right? And I don't understand why you guys are so against killing the death penalty, pulling the feeding tube on people, pulling the plug on people. We kill people all the time. Perfectly viable human beings that we decide to end their life on. What is the big deal?
Do you really want to stake your claim on that argument?
What's the big deal?
Well, because that's a slippery slope. I mean, then you get into, again, Peter Singer.
But we do it.
We should be able to, if you're retarded, we should be allowed to kill you.
But we kill people, man. We kill people as a society, and you guys are all butthurt about a single cell.
Babies.
About a single cell. I'm not cool with it either for me, but I don't want to tell anybody else what to do.
Yeah. Well, but you can see why If I
it's a
believe,
slippery slope.
no, but you can see why. If I believe that that is a human being, and there is no difference between killing the human who's pre-born versus post-born, you can see why that's not just a religious conviction. That's a scientific.
Take the religious
conviction.
people out of it, then. What happens to the argument?
The argument remains whether you take
No,
religious people out or not.
In the world, today, the battle's gone.
But that doesn't mean the argument's not still valid.
Mm-hmm.
You just have nobody to
argue. Nobody to fight. only the religious right fight.
True. There are people who are pro-life who are not Christians or not.
But they're very few.
Well, I don't know. I would want to look into that, because the religious right gets all the press, And I will say, here's the one thing that I do want to own from my team perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have fought this battle in the wrong way for a really, really long time. Like, I interviewed a lady several years ago at Flatirons who had an abortion, and once she went to the abortion clinic once, backed out, got scared, just couldn't do it, got cold feet, and then went back. Like, I'll get it wrong, but I think it was like a week later or something like that. On that day, there were a bunch of people outside yelling and screaming and holding signs and the whole 9 yards. A bunch of religious right people, yelling at her. And here was her statement to me, and this one broke me. She said, it felt safer inside the abortion clinic than it did outside the abortion clinic with all the Christians. I was like, that sucks. That really sucks. Like, that's on those guys. They literally drove her into the abortion clinic where she had an abortion, which she later deeply regretted, and I go, man, that she owns that too, but it's also on them, and I think the religious right has done a really disservice to their own cause and the methods that they've employed. But I will also, on the other side, say this. When you believe that it's a genuine, we're killing millions of actual human beings and the government's saying you're allowed to do it, the government's funding a lot of it, that kind of thing. There are those who look at that and go, that's worthy of a revolution, man. That, that's worthy of, let's take up arms and have a fight over it, I can see how you can get there. That's not going to solve it. But I can see how you can get there if that's what you actually believe. You know what I'm saying? So
for sure.
I think it's been handled in the wrong way in a lot of ways, and there's better ways to handle it. And I actually think that we'll continue to use the phrase religious right is coming around on that and realizing what we did in the 80s. Didn't help. There's another way to do this.
You just can't.
There's a nicer way to do this.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to start making scientific arguments, then I'm much more able to listen to you.
Well, one of the big strategies
but hold on. I'm much more able to listen to you. Mm-hmm. Right? Keep your religion out of it.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly okay with...
Then we can have an argument. Yes. Yeah. So our argument is very good.
Right.
Because you're not like God says.
Right. Now, there is that side of the argument.
But it means nothing. It means nothing.
To you. It means nothing.
It means nothing. So if you want to have when you ask me the whole slippery slope of where, it's difficult. Mm-hmm. These answers, I don't necessarily have the answers, and I hope that dudes that are a lot smarter than me can help us figure out where these answers are.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And smarter than you, and for sure smarter than Hank and Jay, because they've been sitting here for 2 hours just listening to us.
Off,
right? Keep God out of it.
Yeah.
Keep God out of it. This is always my argument. Keep God out of anything that has to do with passing any law in this country.
I don't think we should come along and say this is what everybody should do because the Bible says so. I don't think that.
There we go.
I don't think that.
So then we can have this abortion talk. This is why we can have a civil abortion talk. Because you didn't invoke God at all.
Yeah, I believe that the Bible teaches us
that's
that
fine.
God
but that's for you.
Womb,
but that's for you. That's for you and for your person only. Right? And whoever wants to believe like you want to believe with your religion.
Right.
So this is why my argument against you has been very difficult today.
Yeah, I don't feel like
because you have some good science. Right? You have some good actual things to be like, where do we do this? And we can have this conversation of yes and no, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it doesn't do any good for me and you to sit here and I go, the Bible says that God knit me together in my mother's womb and my inmost being. It does. But you go, I don't care. Right. That's why we don't have that argument.
I could care less.
Right. So what I have to do is say, no, this is why it's the same as why you would be okay with not killing a 2-year-old, and now let's scientifically argue it. Yeah.
Sure. Yep. And that's the way it needs to be argued.
Yep, I agree.
That's 100% the way it needs to be argued. keep your God out of my house.
Yeah, we're not going to change abortion from my perspective by standing outside clinics with Bible verses. But what I think a lot of people have learned is, you know what happens if you want to decrease the number of abortions? Put some ultrasound machines in some clinics in some inner cities.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fine with it. If these women want to come around and man, I don't have a problem with people. So let me clarify at the end here. I don't want people to have abortions.
Right.
Right. I'm not like, oh, abortion's a great thing.
Right.
Oh, abortion's better for society. No.
Right.
Right? I'm not fun. I'm not like, oh man, this is great. You know, abortion's legal. Yay, abortion.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't like telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? Just like you said last week, let me be me.
You do like telling me to keep God out of everything, though.
I do, because it's your God. Right? Because he starts to lend, because you can know, don't keep God out of everything.
Right.
Keep God as close to you as you need him to be.
Right.
Don't try to put him in me.
Right. Stop bossing me around.
Yeah.
You're bossing me around.
Don't try to put him in me.
All right. What episode was this? 7?
That was 7.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
We're almost out of ideas here. We only have like my pillars and the historicity of the Bible coming.
Yeah, we got to do that.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think we have stem cell research, which is a science argument again.
Yeah, we can get back into gay marriage. We never fully
gay marriage, which you're just so wrong on. I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know where to go with this one, man.
Yeah, you think it's the equivalent of racism, and it's not. We'll get into that.
Well, you tell me how you get your God out of here. All right? Just like I just said, right? You make some scientific argument.
All right.
And don't tell me they can't raise people just as well as you and I can. So,
all right,
guys.
Peace out, people.